Hello again, welcome back to the getting through that stack of 2 reads. I've got 150 books on my list. The list is much larger than that, but it was the 150 that I came up with at the time of endeavoring to do this project. What did I read? I read Secret Ascension by Michael Bishop. This one is definitely like a pastiche of Philip K. Dick. The alternate title for it was Philip K. Dick is Dead at Last, so you might find copies of it under that title. Very much in the PKD vein. It's about a guy in a sort of alternate history 1980s in which the works of Philip K. Dick are banned, and then he has a secret stash of Philip K. Dick novels in a trunk, and they turn out to be somewhat prophetic. And through the knowledge of this work and through like a series of kind of madcap happenings, fate happening to him. This was written kind of like a few years after the death of Philip K. Dick, and very much in the same way that Philip K. Dick would kind of insert himself into the book, or like people he knew into his books. This is kind of doing that thing. So taking a lot of things that you would see in Philip K. Dick books and inserting them into a book about like the death of Philip K. Dick and like alternate history. It's filled with like a ton of references to Philip K. Dick books. Definitely calling to mind like all the alternate reality or the alternate histories of Man in the High Castle, Valis, Radio Free Abelmuth, like those types of that era of PKD. Very much like that. Attempts to be philosophical, often ends up being like happenstance and nonsensical, but that's okay. If you're a fan of Philip K. Dick, this is kind of who it's for. If you're looking for something profound, might not be the one, but especially if you're a Philip K. Dick fan, a fun one to like track down to kind of see the homage. I also read Mendelssohn is on the Roof by Jiri Weil. The story kind of details like what the title is. On the roof of the Prague Opera House, there was statues of composers, one of which was the Jewish composer Mendelssohn. And so this is set during the Nazi occupation of Prague. As the anecdote goes, the Prague Opera House had a number of composers, the statues of composers on the roof, one of which was Mendelssohn. And so to eliminate Jewish representation in the place, the Nazi leadership instructed workers to take down the statue of this Jewish composer. And in doing so, they ended up destroying the statue of Wagner, kind of the at the time, this sort of like exemplar of, Aryan innovation or whatever. That is kind of the crux of this book, sort of detailing what it's like to live under this Nazi occupation, and a lot of this, like the bureaucracy and nonsensicalness and meaninglessness of like living in that kind of world. Yeah, and beyond that anecdote, just kind of detailing the lives of people living in Prague, with just going about their day-to-day lives, trying to escape the occupation, trying to escape Prague itself, getting out of there, Jews hiding. In some ways, it's a sort of amalgam of a lot of the stories you would have read about World War II and like Nazi occupation. The detailing of this book is a little more surface than something I would normally like, but geez, like in the 21st century, why do we have to keep, like, we need more things that show you that Nazism is idiotic and evil, and this does this in spades. Alongside this book, I would also recommend, if you ever find it, a copy of HHHH, which also includes the anecdote of the Nazi workers tearing down statues of Jewish composers on the Prague Opera House. But it kind of tells that story from a different side, of like a Czech and a Slovak spies kind of infiltrating and doing an assassination in the city. So kind of yeah, I guess I was in. I've I've read 2 books about Nazi occupation in Prague, and it was okay. And of the other ones that was randomly selected for me, Three Top Tigers by Guillermo Cabrerra Infante. I would say this is like the best of the bunch for sure. Cuban novel, and sort of about the pre-Castro Havana, and very much about the cabaret world and like the nightclub world. And in a lot of ways, like I would compare this novel and this depiction to kind of like pre World War II Berlin and Paris, kind of the way those were, the way they were sort of bourgeois and decadent and had this sort of like incredible nightlife within Europe at the time, right? This is kind of doing that for like a Latin American mindset. In every kind of like review and blog you read, it kind of compares Three Trapped Tigers to James Joyce's Ulysses, which I agree with in some sense, in that it is a difficult book and requires a lot of focus and a lot of literary reference and a lot of unique and specific and difficult to parse language. But I think I had a much easier time with this. The translation does quite a good job of kind of trying to translate like the punniness of a lot of it. The novel is largely about kind of like shifting narratives and voices of people within Cuban society at the time. A lot of nightclub workers, a lot of just kind of like down and out artists. My favorite moment in the book is probably this like ongoing kind of like telling and retelling and argument and of this American couple who kind of share this anecdote of how the guy accidentally steals like a cane from a man on the street. The guy tells the story, then the wife tells the story, and then they tell it again and again, changing, arguing with each other in the retellings. It's quite good. There's all these great moments in the book about Cabrera Infante using kind of like postmodern text to screw with the book itself. Like here, a guy at one point commits suicide, and then the next page is the blackness that's seen. There's all these great moments of, yeah, and here's some like other great structural moments of like playing with the text. Giant butt. It's like fun like visual aspects. Pretty playful in that you can kind of tell that there's a lot of joy in the book, and he's kind of having a lot of fun with it. So much of the book centers around kind of like the monologues and conversations of these like nightclub goers. The narrative kind of centered around these artists and kind of down and out like nightclub goers, just arguing about philosophy, arguing about like music and jazz and all this kind of thing. So yes, that's Three Trapped Tigers by Guillermo Cabrera Infante. Quite good. And with that, let's select some more books. Okay, I got them right here. Flight of Icarus by Quinault. Probably one of his lesser known ones, but the fact I found a copy is fun. The Defense by Nabokov. I think it's called like the Lusian Defense generally. This is the copy I have. And The Leopard by Lampedusa. I know this has gotten some reissues lately, but I kind of have this like great Pantheon edition. That's it. Just trying to rip through them. try to keep on this. That's kind of my, not that I believe in resolutions, but that's my kind of, I'll attempt to be slightly more resolute this year and rip through these lists a little more frequently. We'll see how that goes later.